Hello, Greg.
Hi, Hugo. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic, thanks.
How's the weather up there?
Not too bad today. It's quite sunny, um, fairly warm. Not the best conditions for doing landscape photography in there.
Yeah, we have a heat wave here in Southern Europe, so I'm basically staying inside, not daring to go outside with my camera in the last few days.
I don't blame you. Stay where it's cool.
Okay, so tell us a bit about yourself, about your photography, and what you do in your life.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Photography is a hobby, or I'm an enthusiast. I'm not a professional. By day, I'm an IT contract manager for an IT services company, and by night, I'm a landscape photographer. Or I should say by weekend, not necessarily by night. My passion is landscape photography, specifically mountain photography, and I guess my interest in photography was born out of a love for the mountains and for hiking and just being outside. I've been taking it fairly seriously now for about 3 to 4 years, and things are coming on quite well, such that I recently won a fairly major competition with an image I took on a hiking trip to Iceland.
Yeah. Well, so tell us a bit about that competition. Meanwhile, I'm showing that image on the screen here.
Okay. So this was an image that won Outdoor Photographer of the Year. It's a fairly new competition. It's been running for about 4 years now, with one of the most respected photography magazines out there, Outdoor Photography, and it essentially there were 4 categories, ranging from landscape to water-based photography and action photography, and yeah, I submitted this one and it won. It's an image I took in Iceland, like I say. It's called End of Time. It was at the end of a 6-day hike along the Laugavega Trail, which is probably it's one of the top 10 hiking trails in the world. You trek for about 55 kilometers, and we were crisscrossing it to find various photo locations. And this this particular image was taken on the last evening when I was a bit tired, a bit malnourished. I hadn't been eating as much as I needed because we were having to carry everything over the 6 days that we were going to need. This image, it was an image that I kind of had in my head. I wanted something epic, something that really stood out as being something like an absolutely magnificent moment in time. And after 6 days of hiking, that hadn't really happened. The weather hadn't worked out. We hadn't had any great sunrises or sunsets or anything like that. So this was kind of a last-ditch attempt. And over on the left-hand side there, you can just about see them. There's 2 tiny little tents. You can see where we were camping, with the sun just glinting off them. And we were on top of this little hill for a few hours. There was this showers passing through, there was crepuscular rays firing down on everything, and it was rather quite a spectacular sight. But then it really clouded over and nothing was going to happen. So I started to descend, and just as I did, there was a small gap out to the right hand side there, and it just so happened to coincide with where the sun was going through its setting period, and the whole landscape lit up for literally 1 or 2 minutes, and it was really quite spectacular, breathtaking.
Yeah, it's certainly a stunning image. I find it very, very interesting what you said, that you hiked through Iceland for, what was that, 6 days?
6 days, yes.
Days. And when we look at images from Iceland or from those places, we tend to think that it's like that every single day and every single hour. You cannot fail to go to a place like Iceland and get a string of incredible images, because the light is just going to be awesome every hour of the day and so on. But the life of a landscape photographer is not always like that. You have to take the bad with the good, and you hike for 6 days and the light is not there, the sky is white or blown out, there is nothing interesting, and then you have like 2 minutes of pure magic, which gives you a fulfillment of your whole trip, especially
Absolutely.
if you submit it to an important contest and you win. And that was that was totally deserving image, I think. So it's great. Thanks for sharing it with us. Next question would be, what is in your bag nowadays? What do you shoot with?
Right. Well, I've got my bag here. And these days I shoot with a Fuji Film X-T1. I've also got as a backup an X Pro one, which I tend to use just for street and things like that. But yeah, just pull this up. There we go. F-stop Loca bag, which has got a panel in the back in which I've got all my stuff that I need for hiking, and just in here, if I unzip it, oops, it's all falling out, is my full complement of Fuji kit. There we go. Right. Okay, so XT1 with 55-200, and typically on a day hike, I'll just take 2 lenses. The other one being the 10-24 ultra wide angle, and then there's other stuff in here like filters and things. But the way that I've been shooting recently kind of I don't need filters like I used to with my old DSLR. I'm finding that the dynamic range of the Fuji is such that you can really bring out the shadows without too much noise. So I tend to underexpose my images and then play around with them in Lightroom. The files are pretty forgiving, and that all means that I've got a much lighter pack if I'm not carrying all those filters when I'm hiking up some mountain somewhere.
What was the decision to go with a mirrorless system, driven by the size and the weight considerations?
Absolutely, yeah. I was using a Canon 5D2 and some L series lenses, and my knees were straining on long days in the hills. And they were getting slightly worse, and I thought, I need to reduce the weight of all my kit, including, my hiking kit, but importantly my camera kit. And a friend of mine had been looking for a perfect camera for himself, and had come across. He had tried all sorts of different systems, Nikon, Canon, Ricoh, and Sony, and he'd finally settled upon the Fuji X-E1 at the time, and he showed it to me. It was small, it was compact, and he showed me some images in his Lightroom, and I was just amazed by the clarity, I guess, the quality of the image for such a small camera, and that was it. I decided to experiment with it. It took one shoot. I took it out with the Canon. I took the X Pro out, and the images that I came back with, I was happier with the images from the Fuji than I was from the Canon, and that was it. 2 weeks later, I'd got rid of the Canon.
Great. Are you happy now?
Absolutely, absolutely. There are many great systems out there and some great cameras. A lot have been mentioned recently, like the new Canon 5DS and the Sony A7R II, which of course is mirrorless. And despite the huge increases in resolution that those cameras provide, I'm still happy with the Fujis.
So the next question would be, do you have any tips for our audience to share?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about this, and I thought, maybe there's some tips in Lightroom that I could share, but people probably know them. So, there's a lot of things that are different when you're shooting in the mountains to when you're sort of down by the side of the road or something like that. And often you're quite away from shelter. And there's all sorts of elements blowing around, and one of the most important things that I carry with me is this here. It's just a big long sock, basically. It's called a buff, and it's typically used as a hat. You can make it into a balaclava and all sorts of things. So, oops, there's my very quick hat. But what it's great for photography is, and I use it like this quite a lot. In fact, I first used it like this when I was on safari because of the amount of dust that gets thrown up in the Jeeps. So I'd be carrying my camera ready to go, lens cap off, etc., and I'd just be carrying it like that inside the buff. I can get to the screen and the viewfinder, and if I just pull it back like that, then I've got the lens there, and it just keeps the dust out, and it keeps moisture out as well. Unless it's really hammering down with rain, it's just a good aid to allow you to keep shooting in difficult conditions.
Where do you find that? In outdoors equipment stores?
Yeah, a lot of outdoor shops have them. Buff is a brand, but and there are other brands out there, but Buff are the main ones. And any outdoor clothing shop, it's a good useful piece of kit. Also keeps your head warm, which I really need.
We really need it.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a great tip, and I find that there's a lot of information that you can find online on how to shoot landscape, how to do adventure photography, and so on. And there's a lot about technique, a lot about gear, about what lenses to use, what settings to use, and there is comparatively very little about keeping yourself warm and dry and safe and so on, which is probably even more important than keeping your gear in good shape.
I think it's extremely important, and the same philosophy that you would have for keeping yourself dry and warm, it really does apply to the camera equipment as well. So if you can keep yourself warm and dry, then more often than not you can keep your equipment dry as well. Moisture management. Absolutely. This image is called Last Light, and it's of a mountain in Scotland called Coolmore. up in the Northwest Highlands, and it's probably this particular landscape. If you could see the wider image, and there are plenty of images online if you search for Colmore or Sylvan or Inverpolly, which will show you this really amazing prehistoric landscape, and it gets some absolutely special light as the sun sets to the west. It's exposed to the sea, so you really get the sun low to the horizon and still striking the mountains. And it's an amazing area. And this particular image I wanted to share because it was it's one of the first panorama images I created using the panorama stitch feature in Lightroom in the latest Lightroom release, and also because it uses the Fuji 50 to 140 f2.8 lens, which I have to say is probably the best lens I've ever used. It's absolutely incredible, and probably the resolution on your viewers' screens won't do this image justice, really. But the contrast that is in that image and the quality of the color, the sharpness, and the detail that you're able to eke out of the what was the 16.3 megapixels of the Fuji X-T1, but with this particular lens on, it just seems to create so much more detail. It's really quite stunning, and you don't have to do much to it. I didn't have to do much to this image. So
how many shots was it? You said it was a stitched panel.
Yeah, I think it was a 5. I think it was a 5-image stitch.
Were they taken in portrait orientation, vertical, right?
Yes, they were. Yeah. So, and I think in the end I cropped out maybe about 30% of the final final image to get this one. But yeah, it's a typical landscape that you would see from me. It's kind of a wide angle. I don't, although I do take care of my foregrounds, on the whole, they're not necessarily the main part of the picture. It's the vista, normally with some kind of spectacular light coming in from the side or something like that. So this is kind of typical of what I would do.
Just curious, did you use a tripod and or a panoramic head too? Because I'm looking at the foreground and it seems perfect. There is no sign of any problems with stitching or anything. And I know that if you're I often do panoramas myself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I will do them handheld.
Yeah.
Sometimes the foreground with the problem with the parallax and so on, it will look a bit funky at times.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, I wasn't turning through too many degrees, but I recently acquired. I wasn't using a panoramic head necessarily, but this is my tripod, and I'll just get it a little bit lower. The main thing is I was using this particular head here, which is a unique ball head, and the major feature of it is that it's good for landscapers and it's good for wildlife photographers as well as sports photographers as well, because you can, here we go, it kind of like has this ball thing, which no matter what angle the tripod is set at, and I've got it set up sort of just on my lap just so it's tilting over, but if I was on the side of a hill and I didn't want to play with the legs, I can set the level of the tripod just there with the ball, and then this is kind of like fixed in place, and you can, and if I go around like that, it's completely flat, which is a really great for using for panoramas, basically. And you can point it up and down, but it essentially only moves in two directions. The main thing is this ball head, which means that you can be absolutely level at any angle.
That's great. What's the brand of that head?
It's called Unique Ball. UNIQBALL. Comes in two sizes. This is the smaller one, but it's not very widely available online, but you can find it.
Very, very interesting. I will. We'll have a look and maybe get another tripod head for when I want to do panoramas. And you're also making me want to get that 50 to 140 lens. It's been on my wish list for a few months now, and I'm getting ready for a trip in a month or so. So maybe
it's amazing. I only borrowed it for that particular shoot, or for the week that I was away. I've got the 55-200 normally, but I'm absolutely adamant that the next lens I get will be that one. It blew my mind.
All right. Next thing, I would like to ask you if you can share something about you that not many people know.
Oh gosh, there's I guess there's quite a lot. Because of the landscape photographer, the outdoor photographer of the year. I've had to do a couple of presentations and things, and I've kind of revealed a lot in those. But not everything. I once was security for Danny Minogue concert, things like that. But off the top of my head, there's. I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve, so I'm on social media quite a lot, and I make my views known and things. So there's not really much out there that people don't know about me.
Maybe you would like to mention the book that you are.
Well, yeah. I don't like to plug it too much. I do have a book coming out called Mountainscape. It's going to be printed this Friday. I'm going to see it come off the press, and it'll be released sometime next month in August. It's a fairly small book. But it kind of, in it, I hope I sort of managed to show or convey. It's a very personal type book of mountain images that I hope give the viewer or the reader a sense of joy, of melancholy, of fear, which are some of the emotions that I experienced at the time when I was shooting some of the images in there.
Good. We should have probably waited a couple more weeks so you could have shown the book in live on the show. But we'll put a link. We'll put a link on the blog post to the publisher website, so people will, when this is published, when this video is published, people will be able to find it and to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a link on my website as well, and the publisher's Triple Kite, who are really pushing the boundaries, really, and trying to promote different forms of landscape photography from established names and also from up-and-coming photographers such as myself. And I already have a suite of books, 7 or 8 books at the minute, which are really incredible, books. In fact, yeah. Books like let me just put this back in. Books like this one by Hans Strand, Iceland, Above and Below. There we go. And it's a really fantastic book, and if mine's halfway as good as this, then I'll be happy.
Where can people go and find more about you online?
Well, I do have a website. It should be at the bottom of the screen, www.gregwhitton.com. I'm also on Facebook as well, as Greg Whitton Photography, and people can follow me on Twitter. I'm most often on Twitter as mountainman76 is my handle. I've also got a Behance site as well, so I'm spread around a little bit.
Okay, I'll follow you on Twitter because I don't think I already have you on my list of followed people. Okay, so I would like to thank you for being with us today. And if there's anything that you want to add, or just say goodbye to our audience.
No, I hope you've enjoyed it, and maybe I'll hear from some of you in the future, and we can talk about photography. Thanks very much for having me.
That would be great. Goodbye and take care.
Cheers.